Stress is often treated as a normal part of modern life. Deadlines, notifications, responsibilities, they quietly fill our days. Most of the time, we don't even question it. We simply adjust, push through, and move on. But what many people don't realize is that long-term stress doesn't just affect how we feel. It changes how our brain works, how our body functions, and how resilient we are over time. Today, we're going to explore what chronic stress actually does to your brain and body, not in dramatic terms, but through what science consistently shows. We'll look at how stress shifts brain chemistry, how it impacts physical health, and why its effects often appear gradually, long before we connect them to stress itself. Understanding this doesn't mean eliminating stress completely. It means learning how it shapes us, and how awareness alone can begin to change its impact. Stress is not inherently bad. In fact, it's a survival mechanism. When the brain detects a threat, physical or psychological, it activates a response designed to protect us. Hormones like cortisol and adrenaline increase. Heart rate rises. Attention sharpens. In short bursts, this response is useful. It helps us react quickly, stay focused, and perform under pressure. The problem begins when this system is activated too often for too long. Chronic stress isn't about a single crisis. It's about repeated, unresolved pressure. Work demands, financial worries, relationship tension, constant information overload. And unlike physical danger, these modern stressors rarely have a clear endpoint. Over time, prolonged stress begins to reshape how the brain operates. One of the most affected areas is the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making, focus, and emotional regulation. Under chronic stress, this area becomes less efficient. People often notice difficulty concentrating, increased irritability, and a reduced ability to think clearly under pressure. At the same time, the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, becomes more reactive. This means the brain starts interpreting neutral situations as stressful or threatening. So what does this mean in real life? It means small challenges feel overwhelming. It means emotional reactions become stronger and harder to control. It means rest no longer feels truly restorative. Stress doesn't just happen to the mind, it rewires how the mind responds. While the brain initiates stress, the body absorbs its consequences. Chronically elevated cortisol affects nearly every system in the body. The immune system becomes less efficient, making the body more vulnerable to illness. Digestion slows or becomes irregular, contributing to discomfort and inflammation. Blood pressure remains elevated, placing strain on the cardiovascular system. Sleep, one of the body's primary recovery mechanisms, is often disrupted. Even when people sleep for enough hours, the quality of that sleep may be compromised. What's important to understand is that these changes don't usually feel dramatic at first. They appear gradually, as fatigue, tension, frequent minor illnesses, or persistent discomfort. Stress often disguises itself as normal tiredness. Chronic stress also influences behavior in subtle but meaningful ways. People under prolonged stress often seek short-term relief, comfort eating, excessive screen time, or withdrawal from social interaction. These behaviors are not signs of weakness. They are coping responses from a nervous system seeking balance. However, over time, these patterns can reinforce stress rather than relieve it. Emotionally, chronic stress is closely linked to anxiety, low mood, and emotional exhaustion. Not because people are incapable of coping, but because their systems are constantly overloaded. When stress becomes the background noise of daily life, emotional resilience gradually erodes. If left unaddressed, chronic stress can contribute to long-term health risks. Research consistently links prolonged stress exposure to increased risk of cardiovascular disease, metabolic issues, and mental health disorders. But it's important to clarify something here. Stress alone is rarely the sole cause of illness. Rather, it acts as a multiplier, intensifying existing vulnerabilities and slowing recovery. The earlier stress patterns are recognized, the more reversible their effects tend to be. This is why awareness matters, not fear. So what can we realistically take away from this? First, stress awareness matters more than stress elimination. You don't need a stress-free life to protect your health. You need moments of recovery. Second, small daily resets are powerful. Brief walks, quiet breaks, controlled breathing, or intentional pauses can help recalibrate the nervous system. Third, sleep and stress are deeply connected. Improving sleep quality often reduces stress sensitivity, and vice versa. Fourth, consistency matters more than intensity. Sustainable habits support the brain better than occasional drastic changes. Finally, listening to early signals matters. Fatigue, irritability, and difficulty focusing are not personal failures. They're feedback. Chronic stress doesn't announce itself loudly. It settles in quietly, shaping how we think, feel, and function over time. But the same brain that adapts to stress is also capable of recovery. Health is rarely about extreme solutions. It's about understanding your body, respecting its signals, and making small adjustments consistently. When we stop ignoring stress and start understanding it, we don't just protect our health. We improve the quality of how we live one day at a time.